Last year, I decided to get into drawing something that I've always been afraid to try: anime, especially anime characters. I know how to draw the simple stuff, like those sketches or scribbles that you could do during class. Yeah, anyone can do that. When I drew anime for the first time, it didn't really turn out good. However, I didn't give up. Over time, I started to become obsessed with drawing until I got super good at it. There were a lot of hiccups in this journey, and somewhere around day 100, I finally realized that I made a huge mistake. But after finding a solution, my skills finally improved the way I wanted to. Here's how I went from this to this in 365 days. Before the journey even starts, here's what actually got me into drawing. One day while I was playing games, my brother came up to me and said, "Hey, you want this drawing pad?" Normally he would play Oz on that drawing pad, but now he doesn't have any need for it anymore, so he just gives it to me. It was one of those screenless drawing pads, At least they get the job done. Now that I have this drawing pad with me, I can draw whatever I want from my own imagination. So, to kickstart this art journey, I decided to draw things that I like first, because I thought that drawing things that I like would motivate me to keep drawing. And in this case, it's a bunch of cute Pokemons. Well, because Pokemon is one of my favorite animes. So, something came over me and I just decided to draw Citron along with his Lindora as my first piece. It didn't turn out good. But hey, at least it's my first ever piece, so I'm honestly quite proud of it. Now I'm sure you noticed that I'm not drawing the typical stuff that new artists would draw, like boxes or spheres, or basically shapes and all that. And well, I just thought that those things would be way too lame and demotivate me from drawing. Moving on to the next few days, I continued drawing a bunch of Pokemons. I drew a cute Onbat cracking from its egg, then I drew a Zoda in the grass, and then a Fiato bathing in the water. And finally on day 4, I drew the last Pokemon, which is that stupid frog that I love so much. I think it's actually not that bad, since I'm still fresh and all. On day 5 forward, I decided to pivot entirely to drawing anime characters, since that's what I originally wanted to draw. I started by learning to draw some bodies and poses. I really wanted to get closer to drawing anime characters, so I decided to look up tutorials on YouTube. And because I love gacha games so much, I decided to draw some of my favorite gacha game characters. This was also me just trying to learn how to draw the anime style that I love so much. On day 7 is when I drew my first anime character, because I didn't want to lose motivation from learning to draw bodies all the time. It turned out really bad and I wasn't sure what I was drawing most of the time. The hair is pretty bad and also the face doesn't make sense. But I kept drawing. And this is when I wondered to myself what the things I want to draw are. And one thing came to mind: splash arts. Specifically gacha style splash arts. I played so many gacha games in my life, and most of them I always get excited when I see the character art. So I thought I should learn to draw splash art since they motivate me to draw. However, I did not realize the challenges I was about to set myself into. On day 12, I finally finished my first big illustration, and it's themed around music. This was a major breakthrough because normally new artists don't just start off by drawing full backgrounds with characters. However, there was something weird about this piece. I noticed that I was having so much fun drawing this piece in particular. It made me feel like I want to draw more. And so on day 18, I decided to continue drawing splash arts, but this one is themed out of summer, because it was summer around that time. This one really spoke to me about the thrill and excitement of trying new things. This piece was so much fun to draw, and that was really saying something to me. Now this is when my obsession with drawing started to grow a lot. And when I get obsessed over something like a hobby, I wouldn't have time to do any other things or put focus into things like gaming or studying. Because of this, I managed to produce over 7 pieces in just a month. After the summer piece, I drew a samurai character, then a Frost Mecha themed character, a story writer, a dancer, some sort of time themed character, and a jellyfish themed character. Now around this time is when I started to draw more than, or at least around 8 hours a day, because I was starting to get really obsessed with drawing. Even though the results weren't really up to my satisfaction, I was still gonna tell myself to keep drawing anyways because I was still new. I can't just draw amazing pieces right at the start. On to day 50, my journey continues with a battlefield-themed character. Then I drew a little girl, because I didn't want to draw the same types of characters all the time. After that, a subway-themed character. Then one of my personal favorites back in the day, a knight. Then I drew a city student. Now, something is actually different about this piece, because I finally decided to try different canvas resolutions instead of sticking to the same resolution all the time. Moving on is a sort of engineer type character. Now on day 76, I drew a sort of AI companion girl. And it was also October around this time, which means Halloween, so I decided to do some spooky themed arts. I drew a sort of vampire hunter, then a creepy doll, and then something came up around this time. Remember when I said the Pokemon anime is one of my all-time favorite animes? Well, October 17 is a special date for a Pokemon anime series. I knew I had to do something to celebrate because I'm such a big fan and because I'm also a creator now. So I drew a fan art to celebrate the 12th anniversary. Overall, drawing this made me feel like my art really improved in the last few months. I'm starting to see the result of drawing every day now. After this little side quest for the next 30 days, I drew 7 new pieces. First is a game-themed character. I don't like this piece that much. A farm girl, into a samurai, a phoenix, a monster thing. Not sure what that one is. Then some architecture. Then on day 128, I drew one of my most proudest pieces of doing that time. I thought it turned out good and I was pretty satisfied with the result too. In my head, it was clearly better than my other pieces I've drawn so far. Now during this time, I always thought to myself that as long as I keep drawing, I'll keep improving. And for a while, that seemed true. However, there is actually one flaw in this. I always thought that using references is bad. This was why since the first day, I was improving so slow, even though I was drawing 8 hours or more a day. And the references I've been using around this time were from Pinterest, instead of using references from like industry gadget games with proper splash arts that I like. This means that I was holding myself back from learning because I wasn't learning the proper way to do splash arts, which set my learning back around a few months in the journey. After this revelation, I finally decided to expand my resources, and so I made a visit to Arknight's Operator Gallery, which is one of the most reliable archive of splash arts ever. I picked a few splash arts to study, and turns out a lot of Arknight's art style are very approachable. When I compare my own pieces side by side to a professional industry of splash art, the first immediate difference I see is the color value and the palette. Everything is unbalanced, and when I turn everything grayscale, it becomes nearly impossible to read. Not only that, my characters looked horrible, somehow worse than backgrounds, which is what most artists would dread at this point. However, this filled me with a new flame of determination. I told myself that I can't sit still, and I need to make sure I make something that I really like. Something that's far better than what I've ever made before. After doing a lot of studying, on day 131, I decided to draw a piece based on the character Labertine from Arknight's Enfield. The character turned out surprisingly good. This is when I realized that references are very important to help you learn art, and also allows me to learn the style that I've always wanted to draw. Unfortunately, this does mean that for now I have to keep copying. This was a sign that I have hope to make things that I actually do like. After this, I made a piece that I honestly did not expect to make. I was not sure if I was like on secret steroids or being administered weird drugs from beings that I cannot see, but somehow this piece turned out so good. Even today, I'm still looking back on this piece, but one thing was clear what this piece told me, and that is that I needed clarity, both for the character and the background. With that out of the way, my next piece is me just trying to learn how to draw good looking faces. I decided to use Amiya's space skin to learn how to draw a good-looking face, but it turned out a little too close to the original, so honestly it's just Amiya but different. But hey, at least I'm finally learning to draw good-looking faces. What's crazier is that back then I still don't even know how to draw a proper head shape or structure. So I had to learn that first before I can actually draw good-looking faces. The next piece is a Frost-themed character and a sort of like relaxed outside type of piece. I don't know what you call it. And now this next piece is a more experimental piece. I don't know what to title it, but the main thing I learned from this piece is that I learned how to use layer modes. It's crazy that it took me 150 days to learn that layer modes exist. Oh, looks like it's Christmas. And you know what that means? A Christmas themed piece. This piece taught me that I should use every single resource available to me. And that includes 3D character models. I was thinking that making the characters poses and all that would require a lot of time and also planning too. So I decided that I'll just use a 3D model to plan out their poses and also hopefully learn anatomy at the same time, albeit not perfect. You know the drill, next piece is New Year. Now this piece taught me something important about splash arts. And that is that a lot of splash arts are pretty chaotic. And when you draw a lot of chaotic things, you have to make sure you actually know how to control the chaos instead of making everything look, well, muddled and messy like this New Year piece. Now at this point, there's one thing I still really need to improve, and that's the character hair. I keep sucking at drawing hair, so I told myself that yeah, it's time I need to upgrade. And so I scrolled through a bunch of tutorials on YouTube and Pinterest to find a method of drawing hair. However, it did not take me long at all to finally learn how to structurally draw hair. Turns out hairs are drawn like ribbons. And after this practice, the result turned out better than I expected, and I told myself that if I can keep this up, I'll be able to keep drawing good looking hair. And at this point, I have become so obsessed with drawing that all I can do is think about drawing. Family events, when going outside, at school, doing exam, in the shower, driving or eating, and even in my sleep I think about drawing. I could no longer get the thought of not touching a stylus out of my head anymore. With my motivation at its peak, I entered the super flow state. My head was starting to explode with ideas. I even started doing graphics. But soon, something hit me yet again. This time, it was about negative space. For a while, I was producing pieces left and right. However, the piece I made in day 234 revealed to me the problem about how I planned my composition and the way I used negative space. When I looked back, I realized that a lot of my older pieces had poor details around the character, and the character is supposed to be the focal point, which means that it should have the most detail. After finding this out, I decided to start doing thumbnails for my compositions. This way I can communicate my ideas during the planning phase a lot better. This knowledge in mind, I decided to invent a new pipeline for myself. Essentially, at this point, I finally became consistent with the way I draw my processes. First, I would start brainstorming ideas on websites like Millernote. Then I create a concept art or sheet. And then I do some sketching before the final render, and finally I do the final rendering. This process works so well. It's the reason why industry professionals do this. I can plan things out properly, and if I don't like it, I can just throw it away and start a new one, instead of doing all of this during the rendering part. Looking back on my major milestones, I realized that my drawing skills only improved when I keep up consistency while also reverse engineering industry arts in the process. Just my advice, I think you really should start using more references. That way you can start developing your own ideas after a while. For the last 100 days or so, I was able to produce pieces that I was very satisfied with thanks to the new pipeline that I put on myself. Drawing feels like a full-time work at this point, except that it's fun. A dream theme, shrine maiden theme, photography theme, evening time theme, Or Masquerade theme, I was drawing so many new themes I had never drawn before. My confidence has reached high ceilings and my skills at a place I've never been before. I can tackle large, massive pieces without problem, and I can bring out any ideas from my head into reality. The only thing that I've been avoiding approach are actually vehicles. Besides that, I told myself I can draw whatever I want. Now we're reaching near the end of the first year. But I thought it wouldn't hurt to try to fix some of my oldest pieces. I gave the musician and summer piece a rework, and I was very satisfied with the result. And now finally, to end the year off, I did an idol theme. What I love most about this piece is the amount of detail in the focal point and the character. I'm glad that I'm liking my own characters. If you made it this far, that means that this video did not bore you at all. This video took me around 2 weeks of editing on and off, and I even got bored editing the video midway through, so I just went to drawing the idol piece in order to get back my motivation of drawing. I genuinely really cannot thank you enough for watching this far. But to me, what matters most is that you enjoyed the video, and that's all that matters. So hey, if this video kicks off, maybe I'll start doing more videos like this. So for now, I'll see you guys next time.